Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to start a series around fundamentals of mutual fund. So what happens is a lot of people starts investing in mutual funds, but many of them don't really understand the terminology and various aspects of mutual fund. For example, a lot of people don't know what is NAV, which is net asset value, the number that you see when you want to invest in a mutual fund. A lot of people don't know what is exit load. A lot of people don't know what is expense ratio. A lot of people don't even know the tax implications of the mutual fund. And that is completely okay, because when I started investing in mutual fund, even I didn't know all these terminologies. I just started mutual fund, probably getting some suggestions from friends and family, and then started slowly in investing in mutual funds. But the point is, if you know all these terminologies, you know all of these things about mutual fund, the fundamentals of mutual fund, then you will be better placed in terms of choosing what will be the right mutual fund for you to start investing. So without further ado, let's get into this. So today we are going to talk about NAV, or net asset value. This is the most fundamental metric for a mutual fund. Whenever you choose a mutual fund, I'm sure you see this particular metric, because it is the price that keeps increasing or decreasing around mutual fund. It is the price of a NAV which determines that if your mutual fund is giving you return or not. So that is the most fundamental unit of a mutual fund, which is called net asset value. So let me show you here. For example, if I want to see Axis small cap fund, you will see the current NAV is 63 or something. Let me just push my cursor a little bit. So you can see the current NAV is 64.05, right? And previously 1 month back, the NAV was 59.93. So it has gone up from 59.93 to 64.05, right? So this is the NAV. This is the value. This is the per unit value of this particular mutual fund. Similarly, if you go to any other mutual fund, for example, if you go to Parak Flexi Cap Fund, you will see the NAV here as well. If I see the all-time NAV, then you will see the all-time NAV has grown from rupees 10 to now rupees 51, which is trending right now at 51, right? So around June 2013, the NAV was rupees 10 when the mutual fund got launched for the first time, and now the NAV is 51. Now next question is, then how does this NAV gets calculated, and how a mutual fund is floated in the market? How companies like HDFC, ICICI and so on, all these companies, Parak, all these AMCs starts their own mutual fund? This is the question. So we'll answer this question. Stay with me. So whenever a mutual fund gets launched for the first time, then it is called NFO, or new fund offering. Like it's something like IPO. So whenever a company goes public and wants to have their own shares trading in the market, then it launches something called IPO, जिसके बारे में हमको सबको पता है. We know an IPO when it gets launched. We hear about this in the news. Similarly, whenever a mutual fund gets launched for the first time, it is called NFO. Then whenever the NFO gets launched, then there is a period in which you can subscribe or buy or allocate your money into that new fund offering when the mutual fund AMC launches the NFO. This is very important, because NFO is the time when the number of units of the mutual fund gets allocated. NFO is the time when the entire value of the asset which gets allocated into the mutual fund for the first time gets allocated. And NFO is the time when the mutual fund gets registered and the movement of the NAV, which is the net asset value of the mutual fund, starts. So to simplify this, whenever a new mutual fund gets launched, then the value or the price of the mutual fund will always be rupees 10. So please keep a note of this. For example, if you're looking at this particular mutual fund, which is Parak Flexi Cap Fund, the price of the fund, if you start from the beginning, if you go all the way back when the mutual fund got launched in the beginning, you see the NAV is rupees 10, right? So you will see in every mutual fund. Okay, so the next question is, now you understand NAV. So now you would ask that how the price of the NAV increases and how your allocation price also increases. So we'll understand that as well. Let me go quickly to the Google sheet. So here I have taken an example, very simple example and very simple calculation. So let's say ABC mutual fund launches its first mutual fund, which is an NFO. It launches in the market. And as we all know that any new mutual fund will have a NAV or net asset value of rupees 10 when it launches in the market for the first time. So let's say the ABC mutual fund in the launch of its new mutual fund has got 10 crores in asset invested. So in that period when it launched its new mutual fund, 10 crore has been invested by various investors into that mutual fund. Now this is a very small number. Generally thousands of crores are generally invested in a new mutual fund when it gets launched by at least a reputed mutual fund AMCs or banks or whoever is launching the mutual fund. But just for the sake of example, I'm taking, let's say the new mutual fund is launched at rupees 10 NAV, which is always the case, and it garnered 10 crore in terms of investment money from all the investors for that particular mutual fund scheme. Now, how many total units then it can distribute among the investors? It's extremely simple. You have to only divide 10 crore by rupees 10, which is the NAV. So you get 1 crore units, which you can divide among all the investors who have invested in your mutual fund. Now, let's say you have invested 10,000 rupees into that mutual fund. If that is the case, then how many units you will get? It's again simple. It is only 10,000 divided by rupees 10, which is the NAV of the mutual fund or per unit cost of the mutual fund. So you will get 1,000 units in the beginning if you have invested in the mutual fund during its new fund offering period, right? So you now have 1,000 units for that mutual fund. Let's say after 1 year, the value, entire asset value of the investments that investor has made into this mutual fund, the entire value of that asset has increased, or the entire value of the money has increased from 10 crore to 12 crore in a period of 1 year, right? As you can see here. Now, how it can increase and why it will increase. So whenever investors invest in the mutual fund, what mutual fund company does is it invests in turn in various stocks in the stock market. If I am talking about equity mutual fund here, so it will invest in various stock or the shares of various other companies, right? For example, if I talk about Flexi Cap Fund, Parak Parik Flexi Cap Fund, it allocates or invests in various Indian as well as outside companies. Similarly, Axis mutual funds, SBI mutual funds, and so on, all these equity mutual funds like mid cap fund, large cap funds will invest their money into the large cap, mid cap, or whatever type of fund it is. It will invest in those kind of shares of those kind of companies which falls into that cap bucket, which is either large cap, mid cap, small cap, or multi cap or flexi cap. So let's say the ABC mutual fund is a large cap fund and it invests in large cap companies. For example, Reliance, TCS, all these large companies, Tata Steel and so on, which are part of this large cap defined by SEBI. It invests in those companies' shares and invested 10 crore rupees, which it gathered into the NFO, in the initial NFO. Now, because of the shares of those companies where this mutual fund is invested, the value of those shares has increased in 1 year. So the value of the entire pool of investment that this particular mutual fund has done in those shares will also increase. And that is the reason the value of the mutual fund has increased from 10 crore to 12 crore. And this happens in all the mutual funds, right? This is the entire simple funda or simple, reason why the value of the mutual fund keeps increasing or decreasing, right? It can decrease also if the shares of those companies or the prices of the shares of those companies decreases, the entire value of the mutual fund will also decrease. So let's say the mutual fund value has increased, the shares have increased for those companies, and the mutual fund values have also increased by 20%. So now 10 crore has become 12 crore. So how much total units did they have? It has 1 crore units, which I already explained in the previous calculation. It got 1 crore units in the beginning. So now what is the NAV value of that mutual fund? Now simply the NAV value now is 12, which is again increasing by 20%. How? It's only a quick division of 12 crore divided by 1 crore total units, right? So 12 crore divided by 1 crore total units is rupees 12. So that is the NAV of this mutual fund after 1 year. So NAV of the mutual fund has also grown by 20%. The entire value of the mutual fund has also grown by 20%. The NAV has also grown by 20%. So whatever percentage the entire value which is invested into that mutual fund grows, similarly the NAV of the mutual fund will also grow by that percentage. So let's say if you have invested 10,000 into that particular mutual fund in the beginning when the mutual fund launched its NFO, a new fund offering, then you also got 1,000 units, because that's how it got calculated in the beginning. So you got 1,000 unit, and now your investment will become from 10,000 to 12,000. So now your total investment has become 12,000. Because the NAV has increased from 10 rupees to 12 rupees and you had 1,000 units. So 12 rupees into 1,000 is now 12,000. So now you will get rupees 12,000. So you have also got 20% increment of your initial investment of 10,000, which has now become 12,000. So that is how the mutual fund investment grows. That is how your value that you have invested in mutual fund grows, and that is how you need to treat NAV. So this is exactly how NAV is calculated. This is what NAV is, and this is how you should also understand how NAV plays a role in terms of your investment unit allocation and your growth of final entire investment allocation. So now you understood how NAV of a mutual fund gets calculated, how units of a mutual fund gets allocated. So you are now a little bit more educated into the fundamentals of mutual fund. However, now the question arises, how important is NAV? So please understand, NAV only provides the per unit value of that mutual fund. It is not really of any other use. To understand how a mutual fund is performing, you should not look at the value of the NAV. बहुत लोग ये सोचते हैं कि if NAV is low, that means the mutual fund is cheap. So let me buy more units of that mutual fund. If the NAV is high, then it means the mutual fund is very costly. So let me buy less amount of that mutual fund, and mutual fund will grow less. That is completely false, because NAV of every mutual fund starts from rupees 10. It only matter of time that the NAV of the mutual fund will increase. So if a mutual fund has been around for around 20 years, then the NAV will be lot more in terms of the value. If the mutual fund has only started in last 6 months, the NAV will be very less, because or less in terms of price, because it has been around for only 6 months, and that rupees 10 will increase only very little in 6 months. So that is what a NAV is and nothing else. So whenever you are analyzing a mutual fund, you need to analyze the growth of that particular mutual fund's NAV. NAV is important relatively in terms of the growth. If the growth of that mutual fund has increased from rupees 10 to rupees 12 in a 1 year, which is 20% return, the mutual fund has given a very good return. Similarly, if the NAV has increased from rupees 400 to rupees 500, that means an increase of around 25%, which is again a very good return, right? So that is how you need to calculate. You need to calculate the growth. You should not really look at what is the value of the NAV, but you need to only look at how the NAV is changing over time. Is the NAV going down? Is the NAV going very high? Is the NAV is very volatile? That means the underlying asset where the mutual fund has invested is also very volatile. That's why the NAV is going up and down very rapidly. So these are the things that you need to keep in mind, not the value of that NAV, but how the NAV changes of the value of the NAV is much more important than the value of the NAV itself. Other things that you need to look at, except for the NAV changes or the change of value of the NAVs over time, you need to look at the expense ratio of the mutual fund. You need to look at the exit load of the mutual fund. You need to look at the mutual fund company or fund house itself, how good its various mutual funds of that particular fund house is performing. You should also look at what is the tax implication of that mutual funds and all these things. So we will talk about all these things in the subsequent videos in my mutual fund fundamental series. So don't forget to subscribe the channel. Don't forget to like this video, and don't forget to share this video with those who you think has very little knowledge about mutual fund, or who are investing in mutual fund without understanding these underlying factors, and obviously to those who you think would like to learn more about the entire investment journey, about mutual fund or anything related to personal finance. Hope you like this video. See you in the next video.